to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Ippolita Rostagno is no stranger to having an eye for age-old craftsmanship, detail, and the beauty of Italian design. She herself launched a jewelry collection that combined the world of adornment with her reverence for precious metals. Ippolita Jewelry grew large, it grew quick, and Ippolita learned that you have to be aligned for your long-term plans to succeed. So she took a leave of absence. And later, she bought that company back, but not before learning a lot and achieving even a lot more. Stay tuned and learn why and how Ippolita came to launch Artemest, a company that connects you, the interior designer, with true artisans and craft makers in Italy who create fine furniture, tabletop items, art, and accessories. Can you imagine being able to easily and efficiently specify one-of-a-kind works of art for your projects? Well, let's learn how. Hi, Ippolita. Thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Ippolita, I have to tell you, I was reading what you have accomplished in one woman's lifetime, and it's pretty remarkable. The couple of businesses that you have, the level to which you've grown them, your passion for your business comes through so clearly in all of the copy on the websites and everything. And one of the things that I learned about you is that you're very passionate about this concept of a second act, of being able to just start all over again, go into a different direction, build on it. Tell us a little bit about this, Ippolita.
Well, I don't know if I would be passionate about a second act if the object of my desire weren't so compelling. I had a jewelry business. I've had a jewelry business now for 25 years, and throughout my life, that is dedicated to craft and dedicated to making a living in a creative field, I've really been very sensitive to everybody who works in the creative arena. And since I grew up in Italy, the artisan community is very dear to my heart, and the more that I went back and forth to Italy during the course of my life, the more I realized how difficult it was for them to actually reach the market, that they knew how to do what they knew how to do, and that was basically it. And increasingly so, as the internet has changed the dynamic of the marketplace, it became harder and harder to fill that divide. So because I had been in a luxury business for basically my entire working life, and I know the customer exists, I decided at one point that I actually had to do something about this, and that I sort of felt a moral obligation to help the maker community. And I went back to Italy. I took a leave of absence from my business, and as you say, started my second act, which was to create this website that aggregated all the craftspeople in Italy. And I gave it a home decor umbrella because, from a narrative standpoint, I could include the largest number of artisans. And really, that was the beginning of my, of my sort of long, journey on understanding how to do something that was outside of my skill set up till then, because not only was I not an interior designer or from the design world specifically, but really tackling what were primarily business issues, meaning how to create marketing strategies for them that connected them to the right interior designers and architects, how to create enough of a romantic and sort of broader allure to include a broader spectrum of customers, how to physically document all their work and bring it online in a way that the customer expects today. So this was a very long sort of road because initially I didn't really totally understand. I thought that I interpreted it as an Italian problem, meaning this is a
Mm.
culture problem.
Mm.
We have to really, I have to go to the people that would care about this. From both a cultural perspective and an economic perspective and get their buy-in on the solution. And basically, after not getting anywhere for several years, I finally said, okay, I have to do this basically American style. Take the bull by the horns, go there, set this up, do it myself, and run it like a real business. This is not a vanity project. This is, if I'm going to help these people, you have to create very viable marketing and sales channels that will really make a difference in their lives. So it's basically creating, we started with 60 artisans, and we now currently have 2,000 on the site. And so I would say it's a more than a viable marketing tool. It's a huge
Mm.
sales tool
Mm.
and a huge revenue driver for most of the artisans who are on the site.
So there's 10 things already that my brain is like, I ask this, ask this, ask this. So one of the first things that I want to just observe is you said that you created it under the umbrella of home decor because that would enable you to conclude the most artisans. And I just picking out and observing that is a business principle there, right? Like you could have just done anything, but you did some market research, you just knew enough about the industry, but in other words, it wasn't just willy-nilly that you created it under the marketing umbrella or the umbrella of home decor is what I'm pointing out. There was thought into it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, of course, when I say I'm not of the industry, I have profound knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of the sector, and not only that, but love and passion. And since I grew up in Florence, the application.
Mm-hmm.
99% of the craftsmen really make things for the home in
Mm-hmm.
one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't sort of a willy-nilly decision. It was, how do I create a unified story that will connect all these people in a credible and authentic way, and so enhance their story, not just tell their story, and not just create. This is not just a shop. It's a place where you can go and learn and understand, not only purchase.
Well, and what's funny is because I hear you're like, well, of course it wasn't willy nilly. And I'm just pointing out that sometimes business people do things willy nilly. And this is the difference between modicum of success and big success, is that extra thought in there of, what is the vehicle? What is the thing that's going to, as you said, unify these artisans? But and more than that, you're saying the magic words that we know, and some businesses really lean into and apply, and others come to it kicking and screaming, but is to create the story around it that is the calling card and the attraction for the other people that makes it separate and stick out from the noise, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was a very sort of studied decision.
Mm.
Of course, the thing is that it had to be successful. There was no reason to do it because it's such a massive amount of work to unless you can guarantee and sort of plan some modicum of success. And even though it was a complete gamble because you are aggregating people who are really their own boss, and working on their own time, and so there were many, many, many question marks as to whether this was going to work, but trying to make them all I don't want to say march to the same drum, but basically understand the parameters of this new medium. So if somebody asks you if your cabinet is available, you have to answer right away, not 2 weeks later. Just
Right, right.
even just like very basic things like that. Like you have to actually know how to use a computer. You can't just do everything on the phone. So, so it was a long learning curve because everybody was at a different, at a different phase. In Certainly they were under technologized and their technology literacy was very low. So we had to develop a lot of tools for them to make it easier for them to manage everything from their inventory to the way they communicate with us to everything basically, to the way they invoice, to the way they manage the shipping process and so on.
And that was another one of the questions that I was thinking as you were talking in the first segment there is, what was it like when you went to approach certain artisans? Was there a mixture of, heck yeah, I've been waiting for somebody like you my whole life, and are you kidding? Why do I need you? Who would buy my stuff on a website? You have to see how beautiful it is in person. The tourist has to be here to see it.
Yeah, I would say that at the beginning, 90% of the reaction was the latter. Meaning there, there was a lot of resistance, because exactly they come from a culture where they put so much time and effort in resolving the beautiful finish, the beautiful details, that it takes a leap of faith to think that somebody can garner all of that from a website. And the invariably the reaction was, who's going to buy a 3,000-pound Carrara marble table from Dallas
Right.
without ever seeing it,
Right.
And that takes a lot of trust, and there was mistrust of the idea that people would consume that way. So but again, I was coming from the United States, and I was, having to illustrate how further along, the customer is in that regard over here, that there is a fairly high level of comfort of buying something. Of course, you have to trust the source.
Mm-hmm.
So my commitment was making sure that the product arrived and with the best possible customer experience, on time, that it was more beautiful than expected, in beautiful packaging, or in beautiful crating if that was necessary, and so on and so forth. So that then, a second purchase would have been easier to make.
And so when you do this, what was it about, what was happening in the American market that because this, like you said, this is a big undertaking. First of all, 90% of the people that you approach think you're out of your mind, it sounds like, and then you have got to convince them. But it is a lot of technology for you to invest just to create it, let alone, like you said, getting them up to literacy and so forth in it. What was the model in the U.S.? Everybody's probably like, LuAnn, we know that answer. I'm just saying, it's not Amazon. What is the model in the U.S. that you knew that people would buy luxury by mail, essentially?
First dibs.
First dibs. Okay.
They're the leader.
Okay.
So obviously, my first instinct and my first plan was, I went to them. And I said, I would like to help solve this problem, which is Italian artisans don't know how to reach the marketplace. You already have a marketplace. How about I just help you, figure this out, do the procurement side for you. And they said, oh, that would be lovely, except we only do antiques. Okay. So it was before they started doing contemporary furniture. So that was sort of like, okay, there is a model, which means there is a customer, but not for. So at the beginning, I was I had this sort of funny idea that I said, okay, what they do for dead people, I'll do for the living. They're supporting. They're supporting people.
I didn't see that on your website, Ippolita.
No, in fact, I don't advertise this fact. But I,
Tagline.
but I thought, why are they favoring people? I mean, why don't they favor people who are living as opposed to the other way around? So
That's
I
so
thought
funny.
I have to do something to figure that out, to sort of solve the conundrum of what you do for people who are struggling now,
Yeah.
who have equally beautiful techniques and products and crafts, but they are in need of the link to the market.
That's hysterical, by the way. And your point is well made, right? Like here are these beautiful, wonderful, talented people. We have to wait 50 years to buy their stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's so good. So good. Now, and again though, in there, I keep observing because look, when I did my research on you and I really looked at the level of your company and your accomplishments, I'm like, this is no ordinary person that I'm about to have a conversation with. And look, I've had a lot of conversations and there's just a level of difference. And this is I'm literally picking up the little nuances of the differences. And so yes, the first dib was lost on me because I'm not an interior designer, but you say it and I know it. The idea of it is, though, that we had Robin Barron on the show about a year ago, and she has brought a couple of different products to market. She's a New York City designer here, really wonderful lady, beautiful products. And I remember her saying, if you want to bring a product to market, first see if there's a market for it, right? And do your market research, do the comps, what else is happening in the space. And so for you to recognize and see that, yes, First Dibs is doing it. And I also love the idea of, okay, do I really need to invent the wheel here? Do I have to invent fire? So let's see if First Dibs wants to partner or bring whatever. But if they don't, there goes that entrepreneurial spirit. Okay, the heck with you. You lost an opportunity. Now I got to go do it myself, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there was also the advantage of being Italian,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that landscape very, very well, and then knowing the commercial landscape over in the United States. I know that this customer exists, so I don't have to guess at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe also in data and doing your homework,
Mm.
and therefore I did a lot of homework. I didn't because, I knew it was going to take a lot of heavy lifting, so I didn't want to just, jump into the void with, I had to have at least a 50-50 chance of success, before I even started. So I did know. I mean, I did know that there was appetite for this, and I think that one of the first things that the research surfaced was that something, very, very surprising, like 70% of all design product, whether vintage or custom, comes from Italy.
Mm.
So that is a very significant data point because why? Why do people look to Italy?
Mm.
Obviously, there's sort of built-in understanding that if it comes from Italy, it will have been produced at a certain level of taste and quality and price value relationship that matters, and that is real and significant. So, with this in mind, I was less fearful of the outcome, meaning I don't have to worry about the product. I can
Mm.
worry about the business side. I can worry about the distribution network. I can worry about, creating visibility for them both online and offline, but I don't have to worry about the product because I can count on them coming through.
Mm.
And
Very
in
good.
fact, that's true.
Mm. Exactly. Right. And you've mentioned a couple of times knowing that there was a customer for this. And I know that you've also in the pre-show information you mentioned how important it is that one of the tenets is to know your customer very well. So, do you have some advice for how you went about getting to know, beyond knowing that the customer model existed from First Dibs, like for a designer to take back to their business when they're really trying to zero in and attract their ideal customer? What kind of markers do you have for first defining and knowing who your customer is?
Uh, well, that's kind of complicated because it's a little bit of a science and a gut instinct. Meaning, first of all, you have to know that there's demand, and you would go about it basically with all the tools that you can think about, meaning, first, sort of the most obvious, like if you're a decorator, like that there are lots of very high power decorators out there in the world. If you live in New York, for example, you see buildings going up, at an alarming rate. They all need to be decorated.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple opportunities there if you go find them. You say, oh, you know what? Now that I think of it, I never really thought about being sort of working with a real estate developer on, 40 apartments at a time, but that's happening. Maybe that's something I could pursue. Like if you just start to research your industry, you can make choices along the way that really inform your path. So you can think about that, for example, and then say, no, that's too commercially oriented. That's probably not not my, and just excluding editing out things that you don't want to do really helps, form a path for what you do want to do and how you might go about doing it.
It's funny that you mentioned that particular example of, looking at all the buildings, because we had a guest, Meryl Santopietro, who is an interior designer in Rhode Island. And when her daughters became adults and they were living in the city, she was like, I want to see my daughters more often. And she's like, I got to build a business here in New York City. I didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave Rhode Island. Her husband was there, their family home and everything. She said, but if I have clients in the city, it will give me an excuse to be in the city on a regular basis. And that's exactly what she did. She went in and out of the luxury high-rise buildings, made contacts with the concierge, with the property developers, with the realtors, and she built a design business in New York City. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, but in some ways, it's simpler than you think, meaning the hard part is doing it. Like
Yes.
you can think about it and you can talk about it, but then at some point you got to do it.
Exactly, exactly. That's so true. And the point is, and I've had that sort of a conversation regarding what Merrill did, and you can tell when you're talking with somebody, they're like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'm going to do that." And you're like, "No, you're not. You're never going to do it. You're never going to knock on a door and walk in and say," because that's the difference. That's what separates all of us, right? Is the people that hear the advice and take the action, and the other people that just keep, oh, well, that's a good idea. Let me get another good idea. Wait for the easy one, right?
Yeah, no, execution is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I always sort of smile or laugh to myself when somebody says, "Oh, I have a great idea, but I can't tell it to you because you might do it." And it's like, believe me, I have enough to do. I'm not gonna take on the execution of anything else.
Exactly. So, in the course of building this new business, this new platform with all of these moving parts, Ippolita, were there moments that come to mind that sort of was like, well, that was a little bit of a come to Jesus moment. I might have to rethink things, or I have to, go like, I'm sure approaching first dibs, not that it was a stomach punch because it was a conversation, it didn't happen, but I know that feeling of, oh, this could really work. And then the no comes and you're like, okay, what am I going to move to next? Right. And how else am I going to do this? Do you have any stories or any lessons that you could share with us that maybe really were like, oh, this happened, this was a real thing, and I had to stand up after this, but this is the result of it, blah blah blah.
Oh dear, there's so many. I don't think I could. It's been a constant. I
Right.
mean, I think that the first, like we mentioned earlier, the first big surprise was that the artisans were not thrilled with this idea.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're like,
I,
I've
I,
got the mana here, just start eating, right?
yes, I really honestly felt that it was going to be a slam dunk and that I wouldn't really take me that much time because clearly this would be an opportunity for them. It's not going to cost you anything. I'm doing all the work. How about it? And the answer was no. And you're like, "What?"
Right.
So that was a big sort of eye opener moment because then I thought, "Oh, it's not going to be that easy because I don't have the product isn't built yet, the website doesn't exist, so I have nothing to point to. I can't say
Mm.
this is what it's going to look like." So The on an ongoing basis, the technology part is very, very complicated and substantial. And so building a website that has a seamless user experience, or a beautiful user experience, is a completely different animal. It has nothing to do with the product you're showing. It has to do with all sorts of very sophisticated, both technology and user experience rules that are constantly changing every day, and is a completely different job. And even if you do work with good tech people, knowing how to interpret that and say, okay, but what does that mean for me? And how do I continue to stay on top of the, constant evolution of taste? And, so that was sort of an interesting sort of learning. The other thing was to do with the product assortment. I had done. I thought about how difficult this was going to be to introduce products from unknown artisans, and I thought, who's going to trust? How do we get them to trust the Artemest as the purveyor and sort of the guarantor of these people? And so I thought, well, they probably won't. They won't trust us with expensive goods. So I'll assort, for things that are, a little less of a hurdle as an entry point. So I focused all of my first assortment on tabletop. I thought that's easy, meaning you can take a risk there. And then just, kind of to make the assortment a little more exciting looking, I inserted some extremely expensive, beautiful furniture. And the only things that we sold were the furniture.
Oh, whoa, isn't that funny?
And I was like, oh my God, I spent all these months
assorting tchotchkes for the table.
Yes, like making the assortment, in a way that I thought would be sort of credible and easier to sell. And then it turns out that if somebody is going to go to the, four corners of the earth to look for something from somebody they don't know, they want the most special, most unique, most interesting. And, big surprise, price is not an object.
Right. Because the regular people are just shopping locally. They're just going to go get a sofa, right?
or they're, they don't have those requirements, and so therefore that was like a very interesting learning because, it was unexpected. And, you think everything and you're bringing all your experience to bear, and then you make huge mistakes.
Well, and even that, right? Isn't that something that I think the rest of us can hear you say and say, okay. So, I mean, we say all the time, you have to, if you're not making any mistakes, then you're just playing it too safe. You really aren't stretching yourself in any way, shape, or form. But I think that it's easy to forget that all of us make mistakes, no matter how amazing we look at Artemis is and we think, whoa, everything must have been just so wonderfully easy. And it's for you to, mention something like that you spend months curating a tabletop and, all the technology that goes into having all those goods and services on there. And then you put the furniture up and that's the thing that flies off the shelf. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean there've been many, many more surprises like that. Not to mention the complication of building an organization around, what you find. So you think you need, X, people with X talents, and then you find out that no, in fact, you need completely different things. So, I mean, there are a lot of I'm a big believer in being, smart and lean and mean and, around everything you do, because you have to be able to pivot quickly when you have to fail quickly. You have to fail as quickly as possible so that you get to the right answer, whether it's process or assortment or product or price or technology. I mean, whatever it is.
Well, and failing quickly requires and now we're going to go to that part where you said it's sort of intuition too. It's not just science, because failing quickly, it takes us as business owners, entrepreneurs, to recognize it and not to just keep throwing the good money after the bad to prove a point or because we just won't listen to reason. But at the same time, there's an intuition to not giving up too quickly. Like too quickly could have been, oh, First Dibs doesn't want to do it. They only want dead people. Like, all right, I guess I'm beat. It's not going to happen. It's too big for one person to do. But failing quickly, so that's that. You have to trust your intuition. No, I'm onto an idea. I'm going to keep rolling with this, right? But then failing quickly and on this tabletop thing is, furniture sells, tabletop not so much. Shelve it, move the other way. Whether you took it off or not isn't relevant, but that you knew where to pivot your resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I mean, I think that is one of the things that separates the more successful entrepreneurs is that fine line of gathering the data, understanding what it's showing you, but then also having that gut check of this is something to keep trying or this is something to just let it go, move on. It didn't work, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, the thing is you're never going to get it 100% right, and
All
you're
the
gonna,
time, right?
yeah, I mean, and you're gonna continue to, learn things,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also a believer in the fact that, so when I started my jewelry business, people said women don't like bangles, so don't make bangles, because they can't get them on their hand, whatever. And I was like, you know what? I don't really care, if
I
if
like
that's
bangles. I'm
if
making
that's
bangles.
correct. And then here I am 20 years later with a business, sort of based on bangles. So, there are also certain things that you can't listen you can't listen to every single voice.
Right.
You have to sort of follow a little bit of your instinct around what you feel is going to connect you to the zeitgeist.
It's the truth. That is that intuition part. That is it. I've talked many times about developing the trust of your own inner voice, of that intuition, because, and you're, to your point, you're not going to get every decision right. But I feel like when you do develop the trust of your own intuition based on your experiences, it's not like just, hey, 50-50, let me throw a coin. It comes from your whole life, but I feel like you have to pay attention to it in order to cultivate it. And you still are, to your point, gonna make a mistake, but you sort of then just go, you know what? I made all good decisions there. It was worthy to try. I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. I'm going to keep moving. Or, 4 out of 5 times it works out good. Keep going, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that then you develop a muscle for what's going to work, what's not going to work, and when to cut the cord.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And without feeling like you identify so much with that decision that it's going to be a big blow if it doesn't work.
Right. Not attaching your ego to the failures, because you're going to fail in business. So just recognize it was a good college try and move on. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Not always as easy as
Right. No.
it
No. That's also a muscle. Understanding that it really, I think what it is for me, I reflect on it. And if I can find a place where I veered off of either sound business principles, somebody told me that probably wasn't, not somebody told me like the bangle, right? Like, so somebody said the bangles wasn't a good idea, but that's different than there's solid research. Like you said, there has to be demand for a product, right? So I just think, I'm not even a big jewelry person, but that just on face value does sound a little, really? Women don't like bangles? I don't know. That sounds a little suspect to me. There's more than one kind of woman out there on the planet,
Yeah.
So, but
Plus, I've always had a sort of a gut check philosophy, which is if you feel something strongly, then there are chances that a lot of other people do too.
exactly.
So you have to find them. You don't know where they are or who they are, but you're not alone.
Right. I love it. One of the things, just to go back to, is that that just imagining that process of approaching the artisans in the beginning and you being surprised at the overwhelming reaction of, yes, not for me. Thank you so much. Go back to wherever you came from. What was it there that you knew? Is it that you knew just keep doing this? And I'm curious what made you to drive to keep doing it, because if 1 out of 5 said no thank you, whatever, but it sounds like it was more than 1 out of 5 that didn't get it at first. So that's a real, was it just like faith in yourself, that intuition? I just haven't done a good job of explaining it. I know that this is a good idea. And then what did you ultimately do? Because of course, it's not like now you can go to somebody who might be like, I don't really want to do that. And you're like, well, here's the website. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay, I'll take 2 of those, please. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you overcome that?
Persistence, because in fact, I knew that it was a good idea and it would have a good outcome. And I totally understood that what they were referencing in their own mind were negative experiences that they've had in the past. That in fact were not sophisticated enough to succeed, and had fewer sort of real opportunities to realize, to become fully realized in the way that I envisioned, and also because I was addressing a different market. Everybody that I spoke with who said no was thinking, oh no, Amazon came to me and I said yes, and then they put my beautiful piece of furniture up next to a toothbrush and and a cleaning product.
And why couldn't I sell a $10,000 piece of furniture, right?
Exactly. And so even though I could say to them, oh, no, this is completely different, I had to prove it to them. So it was a lot of sort of, well, trust me, this is going to be very different because I know exactly what kind of experience you've had before. And also being a craft person, one thing that is, is clear both to me and to them was that if they are the principal artisan and they're talking to me, they're not working. So I felt that very keenly. And if you're saying, look, I know that, you're not working right now, so this is a waste of time for you. So let me make it easy. Trust me, I'll do all the work. I'll make this worth your while. And, and that sort of was a big experience. It was an experience that engendered trust, because if you can say, I hear your pain, I know what you do, because I too am a craft person and I understand completely the problem of the difference in, craft travels at a snail pace. It takes a long time to think it, to do it, to procure the materials, to execute it, and sales and the internet go at a completely different speed, and the expectations around these two things are completely different. So I know how to bring those two things together. So you have to trust me. And that was a pretty convincing argument, but it took me a while to formulate it.
Well, and that's interesting too, because, I always say to everybody on the show knows I say to the people that I work with and coach is, here's your line, in my experience, right? When you can relate something that you know to be true and share the experience with somebody and they can see that you do get them, then now we start that bridge, right? And that was what you were able to do by being an artisan and a craftsperson yourself. You're like, I get where you're at. I hear and know the challenges, but I have a solution for you, right? Yeah. So one of the other things, it's so funny because I can't let go of this whole beginning thing, because I could just think of how monumental it must have been to overcome. And I know that the technology also was monumental, but you had to have the artisans first. And so were there... were there the beginning 2, 3, 4 that you remember as being the pivotal ones or the catalyst, the ones that started to say yes, and then the ball starts picking up some steam? Or is it not that personal a memory with the beginning there?
Well, no, I mean, it was very personal at the beginning because I was doing all of the recruiting. I was doing 100% of the recruiting. I mean, I took a leave of absence from my business. I moved to Italy,
Wow.
thinking, am I completely crazy? Or, like, why do I have this conviction, not only that I can do it, even though this is not my field and I'm starting over from zero, and I know nothing about building websites and technology.
Wow.
But I know a lot about business and I know that I can make a huge impact. So I was literally traveling around Italy on a train, knocking on doors, and as soon as I, got the first few and found some people who were enthusiastic about the idea, they would refer other people.
Mm.
Oh, you should see my cousin who does something else
Okay.
over here. And so it was extremely personal.
Yeah, I imagined it was. And then that's the thing. But I feel like, no, 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 no. When that yes comes, it's like, yes, okay, we're going to do this, right?
Yes, yeah, no, it was, and it's still like this. I mean, I honestly like because as the business evolves, the hurdles evolve
Mm,
also.
hmm.
And and you're thinking, now what? Like having 100 is not the same thing as having 1,000. And, do you really want to build an organization that needs to have 100 people in it? I
Mm,
don't know because that's a completely different set of, responsibilities and skills and, everything else. So
mm.
you do have to evaluate, I think, for yourself what you want to do with your time because it matters to the quality of your life.
Definitely. 100%. Well said on that. Um, Another thing that I want to touch on before I let you go is that you believe in manifesting what you know you want, what you want. How do you practice that? What does that look like for you?
Manifest, I'm a true believer of sort of living your ideas in plain view where people can you don't have to guess at whether I actually practice what I preach. You see it in every single thing I do. Everything from, how you treat your employees to how you get ideas to how you develop ideas, how you know, are willing to put your money where your mouth is. And to me, really, living a life that is full of love and satisfaction um, is very, very important. And I think it just looks differently for everybody. But you can't be motivated by money in my case. I feel like anything that has to do with craft and culture travels at a very different speed. And so I often think, I don't know, maybe I should have been a great fund manager or private equity person, because they also have creativity in their jobs, but I'm
Mm,
not motivated by those things. You have to do what motivates you. And because it's all going to take a lot of work. It doesn't really matter what you do. You can pick many paths, but it's all going to take a lot of work. And entrepreneurship is very much sort of a buzzword these days. Oh, you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit to do, your homework. It feels like. But being an entrepreneur means that you have a certain kind of courage, to not align yourself to any one process or any one path, and that you're willing to find the solution and put, your money where your mouth is in terms of both devoting your time, your energy, your resources, to, making your dream come true.
well said. I love it. So tell me a little bit about the practical use of the site. Is this obviously it's available retail? Do you have a trade program for designers through the site as well, Ippolita, or how does
Yes,
that?
we
Oh, we
do.
do. Oh, you do. Okay, so
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
us how that works.
We have a very robust trade program, and it's very, very easy. You just sign up for it, and once you do sign up for it, which is just essentially putting your email in, and then a few steps just to verify that you actually are a trade customer, then the site actually looks different.
Oh, okay.
And you see, a lot more detail. You would see specs and, get access to um, service that you wouldn't necessarily even need if you're just like a normal consumer. But, the site looked at by an architect is a completely different thing because they look at the entire catalog as realm of possibility.
Mm.
They're not saying, "Oh, I want that exact couch in that exact format,"
Mm.
necessarily. They're just saying, "Oh, I see that couch, but I completely assume that I can customize it in any color, fabric, length, so on and so forth." And it's true. This is the one thing that is, this is why this is the perfect tool for the trade, because everything is made to order, so they might as well make it however you want it. It's not a problem. It doesn't add any complication necessarily to make it
Oh.
longer, shorter, or a different color.
Wow. Okay, so that's pretty significant.
It's very significant, and we actually have invested a lot of time and effort in making it seamless so that it feels like we're resolving really all of the issues for you. So it has to be so easy that you don't think, oh, it's coming from Italy. Oh, customs, this, that, the other. We do absolutely everything.
Mm.
We do all of the customization, and we have architects on staff that help sort of evolve the products or the needs or address all the needs if there are anything specific at whatever level, meaning we can decorate plates, we can do contract, we can do hotel work. So we have, a variety of expertise that allows us to service the most exquisite, unique, one-of-a-kind piece to a hotel that needs 300 of something in different colors.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, is there, how do we self-select ourselves for, working with your products? For instance, you know what I mean. In other words, if I don't care what you're going to do, if you need to go get a pair of shoes, sometimes you're like, you know what, I can go to Macy's and get a pair of shoes because I'm going to wear them in the mud and the snow and everything else. And other times you're like, I better go to Neiman's because this is my daughter's wedding and I want an amazing pair of shoes. So how do we if depending on where are we at when we go to your site? Is it all the way from Macy's all the way to Saks and Neiman's or and Dior and all the things, or is it literally we're pretty much Nordstrom's, Dior, and Macy and Neiman's and all the things? You know what I'm saying?
I think we're Neiman's and Bergdorf.
Okay. See, I don't know all the good names, but that's you notice who does not shop. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's important to know, right? Because it's exciting and it's beautiful in all the things, but if my clientele has not reached the Neiman's Bergdorf price point yet, then this is aspirational for me. But if I'm there, then this is a viable place for me to come and look for furniture and other types of products. Tell us about the different products that are available, as a matter of fact.
Actually, I just wanted to sort of make a note there.
Okay.
The taste level and the breadth of the offering is so wide that you can service many, many different price points. And if you're a trade customer, then it's even broader because there are a lot of things that we have available that are not on the site because they wouldn't be appropriate for the website, but we actually have an arsenal of artisans who can service, different needs.
Oh, okay.
But it's not IKEA. Meaning,
Right,
if you're
right.
looking for an IKEA, chair, you go to IKEA. You don't go to Artemest.
Exactly.
But we have everything, basically everything to service lifestyle from tableware to games to furniture and, high-end, unique, one-of-a-kind pieces, and basically everything in between.
Right. Awesome. I love it. I love it. It's such a fun and interesting story. And before I do let you go, there's just some funny little thing in there. And you started this jewelry company 20 years ago and then you sold it and you bought it back again, right?
Yep.
Tell me
That's
that
what
story.
So, my business, my jewelry business had grown large and somewhat, out of control for the skill sets that I had at the time. And so I thought, oh, this might be a good idea. This is a good time to get a private equity partner. And then so I found one pretty quickly, and then it turned out to be a very bad idea.
Mm.
And you didn't I didn't completely understand that you really have to be very, very aligned, to make sure your long-term plans are aligned. And then it turned out that they were not aligned. I wanted to go up market and they wanted to go down market. And so they kind of won, because they had the money. So they invested money in a different strategy. And so I was, and it didn't really work because for no other reason that it just simply wasn't the brand. And I knew that, but they didn't, they would basically refuse to accept that. They kind of had the idea that if you throw enough money at something, it'll work.
It's what we talked about earlier. You got to know when it's enough, and you made a bad move and get over it, right? So that's that example of they wanted to do it a certain way and just kept trying. Okay, go ahead.
So that was when I went to Italy. So then I thought, you know what, this is not working. I have something that I'm very, very passionate about that I want to investigate and I want to get to the bottom of. So that's when I went to Italy. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to take a leave of absence because you're not listening to me anyway. So I'm going to go away and I am going to come back later. So I went to Italy. I set up Artemest and I lived there for 3 years. And the whole idea was to come back here to do the marketing because the furniture is there and the customer is here. So after I had set the whole organization up over there, I came back to the United States. And at that point, the private equity company was willing to exit again. And so I thought, oh, now what do I do? Do I take it back? Do I not take it back? Like, what do I do? And I thought, oh, I spent so many years doing it. It's really too bad because I know that I could get it back on track really quickly. And in fact, that's what I did. So now I have 2 things going. So now I'm like juggling 2 things. But it's so interesting because I was able to translate a lot of the learnings in the digital world to my jewelry business because jewelry had never been one of those businesses that had robust digital, sort of identities. Because very, very rooted in tradition, both sort of in the sort of in the culture, like it really belongs to an emotional sphere. So you have to touch it. You have to, it's always
see it sparkle in the lights.
Yeah. So, and then expensive, so therefore, it's one of those purchases that you're sort of loath to make entirely online. You kind of want to have a little bit of the experience of luxury. Except then, then COVID happened and all of a sudden everybody became very comfortable with online,
right.
With purchasing online. And so the fact that I had all that experience in the customer's willingness to sort of to live online more readily had prepared me for making my jewelry business very robust, my website. And the timing was such, like who could have planned it? Of course, nobody knew that COVID was coming. But then when it did come, both businesses did really, really well.
Wow.
Because we were, poised to succeed in the digital sphere.
That's incredible. That's what you talk about, being prepared to get lucky. That's awesome.
I'm going to use that.
Yes,
prepared to get lucky.
Yeah, you have to do 1,000 little things all along the way, learn all the lessons, do all the hard work, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, aren't you lucky over there? Okay, yeah, that's what I am. I'm lucky.
I know. People say that to me a lot, and I say, yeah, it's amazing how lucky you can get when you work 24 hours a day.
I know. I'm like, oh, you want to be as lucky as me? Come on, for a week. No, that's awesome.
I sympathize.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great story. So good. And so many little nuggets and lessons along the way that we can transfer to our businesses about, the fortitude, about believing in your dream and seeing that vision. And, I come from sales. You have to have, whether it's depending on what I'm selling at the moment, I need 25 no's to get to my yes. Maybe I need 50 no's to get to my yes. Sometimes it's 5 no's. It depends on the product, the price level, and all the things. But, the 23rd no does not upset me because that means, I got 2 more. more? Which one is it? You know what I mean? The next one or the one after is the yes. So, but it's a good reminder that when we look at two of your businesses that look so lucky, right? That really have had a lot of intentional strategizing and angsting and door pounding and all of the things to make them happen. And we can take those lessons to our businesses, to the interior design firms and the architecture firms and, the photography firms that are all listening. So that's awesome. I really appreciate your spending your time with us today, Ippolita. And before you go, tell everybody how do they go to the website and sign up for their trade accounts?
Just go to artemest.com and there will be a little button that says trade. So you just press that and, get right in there. Put your email, and we also have an office here in New York with real live people. So you can talk to somebody in real time, and that's always nice. And
How
we
novel.
can help you. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. And of course, we'll put the links in the show notes and everything. Thank you so much for spending your time with me and all of us today, Ippolita.
Okay, thank you so much. It was wonderful.
It always impresses me, I guess is the word I want to use, when someone connects an idea, a passion, to figuring out a way to create a business for themselves that supports them, but also lifts up and supports other people, right? Because this is what happened. Ippolita, growing up in Ponte Vecchio, Italy, she discovered her love for jewelry as she strolled the streets and perused the shops and the stalls. And this experience gave her respect for the artisan community, who has become very dear to her heart. Knowing the struggles that these Italian artisans went through, Ippolita turned her passion and respect for them into a business. How's that for initiative, right? Ippolita trusted herself to follow that intuition, right? And I love that. Have you done the same in your business? Have you had an idea, something that you just knew the world needed? Did you take your idea and your dream seriously? We've had many guests over the years turn an idea into a business. For some of you, it is your interior design business. Others, how about Darla Powell, the founder of Wingnut Social? Killing it as an interior designer on social media, she realized and understood how much she could help other designers show up and create a social media worthy presence as well. How about our show sponsors? Sarah Daniele, the CEO of My Doma Studio, John Dupre of Revelwoods. Have you listened to their episodes on the podcast? Each tells the story of an idea they had that filled a need for the design community, for you, the interior designer. And it tells the story of how they had the courage to create their companies, just like Ippolita did. If you've not listened to these shows, I urge you to listen, okay? We'll put them all in the show notes, all right? And so now Ippolita is here today also to inspire us, right? I have that sign in my kitchen. I've told you about it before. It says, take your dreams seriously. I hope that you do, right? Because if you don't, who will, right? Very, very inspirational, Ippolita. Thank you so much. All right. Now, before I leave you, I want to make sure, have you heard about the next great My Doma Studio event? It's coming. 19H The Reset is coming January 19th, 2022. It is time to think ahead, to plan, to rethink your business and rise above. Join me and My Doma Studio on January 19th, 2022 for 19H The Reset, okay? I encourage you to take a moment now to plan for the brand new year and start off right by joining us for this one-day workshop. It's going to be packed with tools and templates. It's not your typical same old advice. You know My Doma Studio. They always break the mold, okay? This is going to be bold. And I want to say, if you've had a good money-making year, like I hope you have, there's no better time to invest, because if you buy your registration in 2021, it's a tax write-off, okay? If you're not sure about that, speak to your CPA. I am not one, okay? All right. I am going to open this event on the morning of January 19th, and then together with My Doma Studio and the other fabulous speakers, we're going to shake things up a little bit, all right? Join us by registering at mydomastudio.com/198. LuAnn. That's mydomastudio.com/19H Alrighty, thank you so much for joining me today. And again, thank you, Ippolita, for sharing your story with us. So inspirational. I just love people who turn ideas into things. Is one of my favorite things to learn about. So I hope you have a great day. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.